What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you all so much for tuning into another episode of Mikasa Sukasa. And of course, as always, I am your host, Niko House. I want to urge you all, of course, to subscribe. Make sure you share the videos. Obviously, as an independent journalist and as an independent network, we are not one of the ones who are exempt from this oppression that has been going on with YouTube. We don't fall into the CNN category, or the MSNBC category, or the TYT category, unless you're Jimmy Dore, of protection from YouTube and the censorship. So every share counts, every dollar counts. So make sure that you help out and share this video. So, and also resubscribe just in case, and hit that notification bell so you can get updated. Cenk Uygur from TYT made a pretty interesting tweet, and I have a problem with it, and I want you all to understand why I have a problem with it, because it's probably going to seem petty, but I promise you that it isn't. Oh God. Okay. So it's two tweets. Interesting agreement, but beginning to form between the left and the right online about the skepticism on the Syria story. Meanwhile, the establishment press, as usual, believes the Pentagon without question or evidence. The push for escalation on TV is overwhelming. And then I quote again, it's incredible, because this is a different tweet right after, it's incredible how readily the cable news channels have politicians on pushing for war in Syria, with almost no questions asked about how disastrous it might be or the so-called evidence. They pretended to learn the lessons from Iraq, but have actually learned nothing. Quote unquote, war drums. People, you know I have a problem with this. I don't have a problem with him speaking out against the war in Syria. No problem at all. What I care about is his premise. There's no evidence. They even proceeded to call it so-called evidence in his next tweet. You're partially responsible for this, Cenk. And you need to accept responsibility. Many people have critiqued me for calling out TYT and their disastrous and dangerous coverage of the Russiagate story. And the reason I call it that is because their perpetuation of that false narrative that is yet to be proven is based off of the same so-called evidence that the Syria conflict is being pushed off of. Nothing. Literally nothing. No evidence, just half-baked anonymous sources and articles that are eventually retracted. Think about this. This is the same guy who was critiquing and criticizing the quote-unquote cable news, mainstream media, has literally used the mainstream media to justify his fear-mongering of Russia. Well, Cenk, you always told us, constantly, time and time again, that we were over-exaggerating by saying that your rhetoric would begin to pave the way for World War III. I said this. Your colleague, Jimmy Dore, has said this. Kyle Kulinski has told you the same thing. H.A. Goodman, Tim Black, Hart Bastard, Jamal Thomas, Elizabeth Lee Voss, Kaylin Johnstone. I mean, do you really want me to go down the list of popular journalists who I know are on your radar that you refuse to pay attention to? Same thing with David Pakman, doing the exact same thing. You all were supposed to be the independent media. You all were supposed to hold the Fourth Estate accountable. You all were supposed to hold the establishment accountable. But instead, you take $20 million. Your rhetoric is just anti-Trump, 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 anti-Trump. You're clearly more concerned with ratings, taking the Rachel Maddow route. You know, I heard she just killed it on cable news in the Trump era, and her coverage, her ratings literally spiked because of Trump Russiagate coverage. And yours did as well. That was more important to you than the truth. That was more important to you than evidence. We've told you time and time again, people have critiqued myself and others for our coverage of TYT, or reminding the people that TYT is not one of us. The network is not one of us. Jimmy Dore may be one of us. The Humanist, Mike Figueredo, he may be one of us. Kyle Kalinske from Secular Talk, he might be one of us. But TYT, the network, is not one of us. They are not one of us. We aspire for truth to make sure that things like this never gain traction. Yeah, I 100% agree. There is no evidence. But the quote unquote war drums that you're hashtagging and tweeting about now, you were banging them just as loudly. You were following those narratives just as blindly as the mainstream media was. And anyone who's been paying attention could tell pretty quickly what was happening. Notice the same pattern, right? During the Red Scare, we had to attack Vietnam because they may submit to communist Russia rule. We had to attack Cuba because they may submit to communist Russian rule. We had to attack North Korea. We had to attack Laos. We had to attack Grenada. We had to attack Panama. We had to attack Trinidad. We had to attack the Congo. We had to attack Iran. Because Russia, at some point, maybe, possibly, potentially. Back then we were called communists. Today we're called Russia bots. We have to go into Syria. If they're backed by Russia, then they're the enemy. And they're being backed. If anybody's friends with Putin, you catch my drift? Do you see where we're going here? They're using McCarthyist tactics, and you've been a tool of that. Hate to break it to you. Go back and re-look. Like, I want you to go watch old videos of McCarthyism. McCarthyism, during the height of McCarthyism, and not just the height of McCarthyism, but really during the entire post-World War II era, everybody spoke in absolutes. You're with us or you're against us. If we allow communists, quote unquote, to do this, then absolutely it must mean that we're weak. Absolutely it must mean that we're this. That we're that. That you're not American. If you disagree with the Russiagate narrative because of lack of evidence, then absolutely it must mean you're a Russia bot. If you disagree with the idea that Hillary actually won the election, and if you actually critique her to the extent of, like we have, to say not only did she not win, but she stole the primary and tried to steal the general according to evidence, you're a Russia bot. God forbid we ever decide to critique the media's coverage of Trump, its really weird obsession with his personal life outside of finances. We all know that Trump is a corrupt businessman. That would make him one of about how many people are in Congress, the Senate, any presidential administration, any businessman pretty much who has ever stepped foot on Capitol Hill, how many consultants. I mean, the list goes on. So pretending as if Trump was somehow unique in that regard is laughable. But if we say these things, we're Russia bots. You were one of the people protecting this language, protecting this rhetoric by not critiquing objectively the establishment left who was propagating the narratives that you followed suit. You enabled them. People in your very audience that celebrate you. You enabled them to come at the actual progressive left for simply doing our job as journalists and reporting the truth objectively. So, in case you were curious, absolutely. If a world war starts off and we end up engaged with Russia, deepening our hole in this McCarthy era, you have just as much blood on your hands as any of those politicians do. And do not mistake that for a second. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Make sure you donate to our One Follow, $1 campaign on Patreon. Support the show and support the network. Help us grow. And always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.